Am I supposed to be serious or funny?
I have no idea what's going to happen.
Okay, great.
All right, welcome back to the Lucky Orange Show. Today we have a special episode for you. We're trying out something brand new. But before we get to that, I want to introduce my co-host returning to the scene. She's got her Invisalign out. She's ready to rock. Molly Stats, welcome back to the Lucky Orange Show.
Thanks for having me, Sean. I'm surprised you let me back.
Just for context for anybody who doesn't know Molly or I, my name is Sean McCarthy. I'm the Director of Brand and Content at Lucky Orange, and Molly is the Director of Strategic Partnerships. So today is November 4th, Monday. In the U.S., we've got an election tomorrow. So today we're talking all about politics. Let's talk about border security. Molly, go.
Okay. Well, certainly.
Just kidding. HR, if you're listening to this, that was but a joke. Today what we're going to try is a new episode format that we're calling Ask Lucky Orange. You can probably imagine what we're going to talk through. We have a docket of topics to talk about today. This is a collection of questions that we get from our customer support team, internal conversations that are going on, and just a variety of things that we think are worth sharing with the Lucky Orange Show audience. So as you listen to this, if there's a question that you have about using Lucky Orange, about CRO in general, anything that we cover or don't cover, feel free to drop it in the comments and we will try and hit it on another episode of this because this is something that we would like to do more of in the future.
Also, the latest fall fashions. You can ask about the fabrics of fall, which is corduroy.
Right. I mean, if there's one thing Lucky Orange employees are known for, it's
fall fashion.
For sure. Mm-hmm. For sure. So I'm excited to jump in here. We do have a couple of updates about Lucky Orange, the product that we want to share. But one thing that I think is worth discussing, the question comes up a lot. How do I choose which session recordings to watch? I think there's a natural direction to go here talking about segmentation and stuff. But Molly, if you were to tell somebody, how do I choose which session recordings to watch? Where would you send them first?
Yeah, I think it's maybe counterintuitive, but I think you have to start with the end in mind and work your way backwards. So what I mean by that is, what are the goals? What are you trying to achieve by using a tool like Lucky Orange or by watching session recordings? And if it's to say, I want to understand how people are engaging with my homepage and the flow in which they're going through my homepage. Or I'm very curious about this new spring line collection we just released. I really want to understand what's happening there because we have a lot of KPIs on that. So it'd start there. So I think you have to work your way backwards and really narrow in your focus, at least initially, to say, what am I actually hoping? Why did I implement Lucky Orange to begin with? And then dive in and, like you said, segment off of there. Because if you just start and go in while it's kind of cool and kind of fun to watch session recordings, you can watch a session recordings for an hour and you have no idea what you watched or why you watched it and pick up any trends. So I think you have to go in there looking for something or know you're looking for something and see if that's true and kind of have that hypothesis going into it. If not, it's going to be overwhelming. You're going to go through a lot of session recordings and be like, so now what? But if you start with a hypothesis, I think it makes it easier for you to narrow in those session recordings.
And of course, the next natural step is to wonder what I should watch for. But I think it really is important just to start with saying, what am I trying to find? And a lot of the time we talk about proactive versus reactive conversion optimization. And just to kind of tie that on here, like reactive optimization applied to session recordings would mean I see a problem happening or I hear about a problem. My customer support team says people are having issue with something on the website. Then I'm going to Lucky Orange to watch sessions of people experiencing that issue. I'm reacting to a problem within the business. That could also be something you're seeing in reports. So you say, usually our Facebook ad campaigns are performing at this benchmark level. It right now is down by 10%. Let's go watch session recordings just to make sure that nothing bad is happening on that page that's causing that. The proactive side is where we get to kind of explore it a little bit differently, but you still have to have what you're talking about, which is an idea of where you're going. So proactive optimization would be to say, I want to find something to optimize. I'm not reacting to an existing issue, but I do want to find something that I can optimize. And what this requires you to have coming in is to say, part of my traffic am I looking at? Or what part of my site am I looking at? Because to your point, if you're just watching session recordings, you're lucky to catch even a similar experience through similar pages as you watch through them. But if you say, I want to watch people who had a frustrating experience on my site, okay, that's a great place to start. What does that mean? It means they had a rage click where they clicked on something 3 or more times and nothing happened, or they had a shaky mouse, or they jumped back and forth between pages, whatever that indicator is, you can filter down your session recordings to say these are people that had that experience. And then within that, try and find an optimization opportunity.
I think there's very rarely too people who go into session recordings, and for the most part, if you're getting traffic to your site, if you're getting engagement on your site, if you're a polished, relatively well put together site, which most of our listeners probably are, there's very rarely a slam dunk, right? Where you're going to go onto a session recording and kind of go and be like, oh, that's clearly people don't like where I placed, this CTA, or people clearly aren't doing that. There's very rarely that slam dunk. So you're looking for more of those nuances with a very specific audience, like you said. And also, I think it's interesting to say, hey, we just launched this Facebook ads campaign. Let's go watch. And I think those people should be buying the pink fuzzy chairs. Those people aren't buying the pink fuzzy chairs. So what are they buying? And so getting narrowed in to be able to say a very specific thing that you're looking for kind of helps that focus, because there's just no slam dunks. There's rarely a very obvious broken link or very obvious engagement pattern that everyone's having, because I think we can attest, and Nick, our UX designer, can too, like how you think people are going to engage with your website. There's so many different people and they're going to have a different experience. And it's hard to just narrow that into one thing that's the silver bullet, if you will, to improve your website.
And if we do want to orient watching session recordings around something that brings all these visitors, ties all these visitors together, one way to do that would be interacting with a specific element. I was in Austin for the EXL Unite conference recently, an amazing experimentation focused conference that I would highly recommend for anybody to go, put on by Spiro and Chameleon. And one of the conversations I had was a question, actually. He said, I wish that I could tag elements on my site to be an event when people interact with them so that I can pare down session recordings. And luckily, I got to raise my hand and say, Lucky Orange does that. So just as kind of like a primer, this won't fully walk you all the way through, but in Lucky Orange, you can create events and you can tag them as key events. But the primary thing here is that you can tag almost any element on your site as an event when somebody clicks it. And so what we would say is, even if it's not a button, it could just be a text block, a drop down, a trust icon. You can say, I want to know whenever somebody clicks this, and it will tag them with that event. And what you can do is filter your sessions, filter your visitors by that event. And if that event is something you care about, now you have a list of people who clicked on that element. So there's lots of little ways to just pare down that list of visitors and get you to a point where it's a little bit more manageable.
This may be an unpopular thing to say on the Lucky Orange show, but I'm glad you brought up events, because one of the interesting things I think about session recordings is people get overwhelmed by, I have hundreds of thousands and different session recordings. How do I go through all of them? Sometimes you just need the events off of the session recording. So if you're looking for a very specific event, a click, an engagement, that sort of thing, you can filter those session recordings by that event. And then you can go in and watch, especially in Lucky Orange, where it kind of highlights in your timeline panel the events that are happening. You can go watch a very specific portion of that session recording to say, I just want to see the 10 seconds before and the 30 seconds after surrounding this event to get the context. Then you can really narrow down and you don't have to watch the 2-minute long session recording, or you don't have to watch all the session recordings. You're just interested in the events and then seeing the context around that event. So while session recordings can be good and it's fascinating to do, sometimes you just need the events from the session recordings that can be equally as powerful for you to make conclusions and draw your next steps from as well.
All right. Anything else on sessions, filtering, anything along that before we move on to our next item?
Let's move on to our next item.
Okay. How lovely. So I did want to jump in and provide some updates on a heat map compatibility upgrade, we'll call it, that we just released. This is within the past week or so. And in the past few months, I would say we've seen kind of an uptick in compatibility issues with Lucky Orange's dynamic heat map tool. If you're unfamiliar with the tool, a heat map just shows where people click, scroll, or move on the page, gives you an idea of where attention is being paid on the page. Now, what had been happening, and this is a result of the complexity of building a website. So over time, there's more and more ways, more templates, more builders, different ways to architect a website. And that means that tools like a heat map tool have to stay compatible and have to be kept in line with whatever the current way of doing things is. And so what we'd been seeing and getting a lot of tickets around was that CSS wasn't displaying properly, styling wasn't displaying properly. Some elements were displaying out of order on the heat map, some carousel images were displaying out of order, and things like that. Because of the way that a heat map is created, is that we kind of build that page behind the heat map visualization. And I'm not an engineer, so there's some of this that I may not be describing properly. But what was happening is that the clicks that you're seeing in the heat map were kind of out of line with what was shown on the page. Well, thankfully, our wonderful engineering team spent time fixing that. Now and in the future, we built it in a way to where it will be completely compatible across any page builder, Shopify, all this stuff. It's all good now when it comes to heat map compatibility. Obviously, if you do see something, let us know, but everything there is fixed.
It's one of the things interesting as the industry as a whole continues to evolve. And you mentioned Shopify. We were starting to see Shopify use different coding language, build their themes for their Shopify stores in a different way. And even with WordPress or BigCommerce or some of these other ones, we were starting to see their code structures and the way in which they did their things advance. And Lucky Orange is committing to being there alongside where the industry is evolving to. And this is just one of those ways. While it might not be a super obvious and sexy update for, the general population, these are things that as you pick certain tools and as you review your MarTech stack, you want to make sure that you're working with people that are also evolving and changing their ways. And it's not a set it and forget it type of situation. So it's been really excited to see. I know specifically for our Shopify audience, this will be a big change. And we want to continue to get better and grow alongside you guys. So the heat maps thing is huge from our integration standpoint as well.
For sure. And definitely stay posted. I know that we're working on some other things related to our heat maps tool. We will be excited to announce those hopefully not too long from now. Molly, let's hit the pause button. How do you think this is going so far?
So good.
It's great.
Yes. How do you think it's going?
Episode 1. We'll see. I'll have to listen back to it. I'll give you a full breakdown of how you did. I'm obviously doing well.
A peer review?
360 peer review.
Okay, perfect.
Skip level, all that jazz. We'll see if you get back.
Okay.
The next episode.
I can't wait.
Moving on. You mentioned Shopify. That is one of our integrations. It's a really important audience for us, a really important platform for us. Are there any updates or kind of news on the integrations front? Anything that's happened recently that you think people need to know about?
Yeah, I mean, starting with Shopify in particular, obviously Shopify both claims and I would argue is the number one converting checkout and for e-commerce sites. And that's something that we take very seriously here at Lucky Orange, the checkout process and getting to that checkout process. But also once you're there, people want to know what the heck people are doing, the session recordings, the events, the heat maps, all of that sort of thing. So we've been working with Shopify really since, I've gotten here 5 years ago on checkout specifically, but have some really exciting updates coming out with Shopify, hopefully before the end of the year, that really enhances the ability to track your checkout page and specifically for Shopify Plus with that enhanced level of benefits. So understanding the events that are happening, I think are key to understanding that last step. So we're really excited about our commitment with Shopify to make the checkout page as consumable and understandable from an analytics standpoint as it can be. We're also hot on the built for Shopify train. So one of the goals of all the integrations that we do across the board is really to meet our customers where they're at. And we want to be a part of the workflows they're engaging in and not a separate tab or a separate engagement or an afterthought. And that's what makes it most valuable to the customers. We are spending quite a bit of time working with Shopify to really incorporate within Shopify's admin and the workflows that Shopify merchants are already doing with inside of Shopify. So more to come on that in 2025, but we understand that's a big point. Also on that note, we recently got back from HubSpot's inbound in Boston, and we spent a lot of time talking with the HubSpot, the HubSpot teams, their customers, their agencies to really understand what makes the most sense from how a tool like Lucky Orange fits into their workflows. And that's also something that we're spending some time doing. We recently in the last year rolled out CRM cards. So those of you familiar with HubSpot understand that these are cards that are built within your contacts timeline that allow you to understand how that contact's engaging with your website. We want to take that a step further and say, where in the workflow do you want to understand about how your contacts are engaging with your website and your products, and really build that in to be a more cohesive, connected experience. So we're also working with HubSpot to kind of level up Lucky Orange's integration within there. There's also several more integrations we have on the horizon that our customers are saying, hey, do you guys integrate with X, Y, and Z? And does it make sense from our product standpoint to fill some of the gaps that our product may have that is not something we're going to focus on from a roadmap or product engineering standpoint, and working with those partners to increase the value. So again, I'll put this shameless plug out there as well. If there are things or tools or areas of your MarTech stack that you're saying, I'd love if Lucky Orange information showed up here, or I'd love for that tools information and data to show up within Lucky Orange, let us know, because that's what drives our roadmap here. It's not Sean and I, or the rest of the team, leadership team, sitting in a room saying what looks fun to us to build. We don't want to build it if it's not of value to our customers and the workflows they're in.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff going on there, but more to come in 2025.
Yeah, and we're like any business. We head into strategic planning this time of year, and it's really important for us to know kind of the pulse of our customers. And we do have a really strong relationship with customer feedback and all of that. But anything that, like Molly said, where you want to see your data showing up, we'd love to know about it, even if it's something that we've never thought of before. We're always open to these ideas. The next thing that I wanted to hit on was our conversion funnels tool. So we get a lot of questions about conversion funnels as a tool. And I'll go into here in a second what they are and how they work. I think that the struggle here is that a conversion funnel in general is a topic that almost everybody understands. Specifically, let's say from marketing, you've got your awareness on all the way down through a conversion, becoming a longtime customer. When it relates to the website, everybody also understands, hey, you've got a page where they land on, and then a series of pages and actions that drives them all the way through. And so I think there's an expectation that you're going to be able to track anything, any path through the site, any journey through the site using a Lucky Orange conversion funnel. That's not entirely what these are for, though. So let's talk through kind of an example of how conversion funnel might work. Lucky Orange conversion funnels are designed really to track a very tight journey within a part of your site, is how I would phrase it. So you can have a page visited, and then a page visited, and then an element clicked, let's say. So for an e-commerce example, we can set up a conversion funnel that says they landed on a product category page, and then they went to the product specific page, and then they clicked on an element there. You could track that. Now, it has to happen in that order, and there's some other caveats, but really what we're saying here is back to our first topic of today, which is like, how do I pare down session recordings? Funnels are a great way to do that. If you care about a specific journey within your site, you care about a page to a third page, or maybe to a button click or to an action. That's what these conversion funnels are for. It's not necessarily to track people as they move throughout the entire site. And this has a lot of applications in e-commerce, like I said, where you can follow through a specific journey. Also lead gen. We're in the open enrollment period for a lot of insurance. I know that a lot of these insurance lead gen websites will have a multi-step form, will have a multi-page experience. And so funnels can pop up and really be helpful there. Molly, do you have any other thoughts on?
Yeah, I was going to say, going back to kind of our earlier part of this conversation, we were talking about like hypotheses and how, you may expect your designer has designed the website in this way to operate in this way. I think these are good examples to say, I think people should engage with our website through this path. They should go here, then they should go here, then they should go here, and that'll lead them to checkout. A conversion funnel allows you to test that if it's actually true. So when someone comes to you and your designer's like, no, I've designed in a very bespoke way, and this is no shade on designers, but we've gone back and forth where they're like, this is the flow that makes sense. Sure, but this isn't actually the flow people are doing or engaging with. And you can see the drop off points there to say, what's the gap between getting this person from this page to this next page? Do we need to reorient it? Do we need to make it easier? And I think it really can help you use data to inform those conversations. So it's not a matter of everyone has an opinion on how something should work. The data is validating, yes, this is how it's working and we should go down this path, or absolutely not working this way. And we need to evaluate this specific part of the journey. It just lets you have more informed conversations going into those discussions, which within a website in particular, I feel like everyone has these opinions on it and very specific personal preferences. And it's hard to take the personal bias out of it without a tool like Lucky Orange.
Yeah, I mean that's at the core of why we exist even,
Yeah.
is that it's visual proof of behavior on a website. And like I always like to say, behavior is communication. And so if they're clicking something, if you can prove that something is happening and you can add this qualitative data into the picture, that makes those conversations a lot easier. The last item on our docket today is to talk about seasonality and CRO and website optimization. Like I mentioned, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is obviously coming up. Most businesses have some level of seasonality, no matter what it is. E-commerce is just an easy example to jump on. Education, nonprofit, whatever your website type might be, you have some sort of seasonality. So we're talking about Black Friday, Cyber Monday a lot right now. But I'm curious, Molly, on your thoughts around seasonality and CRO. I mean, is it a good time to even be testing on your website? Is it risky? Is there anything you can do ahead of the busy season to prepare? Drop some knowledge.
Yeah. Well, I'm laughing kind of and rolling my eyes at this question because it's one of the things I feel like comes up at Lucky Orange in our own company all the time is we're like, well, we can't make this change because seasonality would dictate this is a slow time of year for us or this is a busy time of year for us. And our data analyst is constantly like, oh, you guys put another caveat into this for me to be able to analyze the data on. There is always going to be a reason you shouldn't test or you shouldn't make changes or whatever it is, or you shouldn't redesign the website. But then there's always a reason you should. And I think limiting yourself to saying, hey, well, this is a busy time of year for us, or this is a slow time of year for us, we shouldn't make any changes is a little too self limiting because there are opportunities to always make your busy time of year and your website even better during that busy time of year. And if you're noticing something in session recordings that would indicate you need to make a change, make the change. Like don't wait for things to slow down. Things are never going to slow down. And in a lot of businesses, the seasonality can change. It can depend on a lot of environmental factors. Did a hurricane just come through and all of a sudden your buying cycles are pushed back or pushed forward based on that? As you mentioned, it's an election year. It's an election in the US tomorrow. There could always going to be something that can affect people's buying behaviors and patterns. So, well, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is a big one for the e-commerce world. If you are noticing something that is wrong or have a strong hunch of making improvement that could make something better, I say why wait? I think people just get scared and you can live in the fear or you can go ahead and do it and hopefully it works out for the
Yeah,
best.
I mean, in the spirit of experimentation, if you have more traffic to your site, it gives you more opportunity to run better tests. If you are paying a lot of money to send traffic to your website, you want to squeeze as much out of it as you can. So I
Yeah,
think it's okay. You may save your more aggressive hypotheses for
sure.
other times of the year. But at the same time, we have to remember that traffic during the busy season, air quotes, probably behaves differently than traffic throughout the rest of the year. So there's a lot of factors at play here. I think if we're talking about a business and a team that is somewhat resource strapped, the approach is different than if you have
Yeah.
a broad experimentation group, website optimization group, because I think that level of team potentially has more budget to throw against testing, but also just has more bandwidth throughout the year to build up a proper testing cycle and capability. If you're a smaller team, like Molly said, there may be plenty of opportunity to just make changes and make small tweaks and updates throughout the busy season. So if you're listening and you're getting ready for the busy season, I'd love to know more about how you're preparing for that, how you use Lucky Orange and tools like ours during this time of year. I know that we get a lot of people who say, I'm starting Facebook ads this year. I'm banking a lot on that. I'm using Lucky Orange. I'm watching session recordings just to make sure stuff's working. I'll tweak ad copy elsewhere. I'll do these little things elsewhere, but I'm just making sure that the page is loading
Yeah.
on mobile, that it doesn't look crazy. If there's a phone number that's supposed to be displaying, that it's displaying properly, things like that. But I'd love to learn more about how people are using us during their busy season.
I think one thing too that may be a little intimidating, especially for the smaller teams, is saying, "Well, should I be making changes? And what if I don't what if I don't know what to do this busy season?" Specifically Black Friday, Cyber Monday, if you're e-commerce, I would say one of those changes you could make to see how it goes is adding Lucky Orange includes live chat in our offering. So throwing live chat on your website and you don't have to be there 24/7, you don't have to be there 365. There's a waveforms you can set up for when you're not there, but throwing a live chat on your website, I think, can really help direct you during this busy season and make your customers feel like they have access and an ease to check out. And you can also use that as a feedback collection tool. If people are like, I really don't like how your holiday collections page is set up, it's really confusing. Okay, that's direct feedback in your busy time. You can go make changes to that and you can ask people of that. So I would say you don't have to have this built out, full, robust customer support strategy. Throwing live chat on your website can be a good starting place. And you can always shut it off if you get overwhelmed or you don't want to do it. So if you're looking to make a change without having to do something major, I think a live chat is a nice change to add to your website if you don't already have it on there.
Look at Molly just being a salesperson.
Oh my gosh, look at me go.
We're going to have to institute a rule for the Lucky Orange show moving forward of no sales pitches.
That you're going to give me a commission for pitching Lucky Orange on our own show?
Before we wrap, like I said, people are heading into their busy season. We're here for you. Our support team is always available. The best way to get in touch with them is through email. It's just support@luckyorange.com. They will reply as quickly as they possibly can. As you imagine, during this time of year, our ticket count goes up, but they're really, really great. That's one of the benefits of working with Lucky Orange is that we have really good support staff. And if you don't hear a response from them that is to your liking, Molly and I sit right near them in our office space, so we can go over and bonk them in the back of the head. Molly, any parting words before we call it a day and go talk about border security together?
Oh yeah, is that what we're going to talk about?
For sure.
No, thank you for having me on, Sean.
Thank you.
Been fun. Have me back. I think the people want it.
Well, yeah, I can hear it already.
Yeah.
The crowd.
For certain.
The
Yeah.
wave is going.
Yeah.
With all the crowd. So thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We love any feedback on future episodes, people you want to see on, conversations you want to see us have, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Lucky Orange Show. Before we go, if you haven't tried Lucky Orange yet, head over to www.luckyorange.com for a free 7-day trial of our leading conversion rate optimization toolkit. What's in that toolkit? Well, let's start with session recordings and Heatmaps. With session recordings, you can watch a full playback of an entire visitor journey on your website. Everywhere they click, scroll, move, everything they do in your site, a full playback. So you can see what's getting in the way of conversions and what is getting people over that finish line to convert. With dynamic heat maps, you can see the average visitor behavior on a page. So you can see clicks, moves, and scrolls. You can see how far down the page the average visitor is scrolling. And if something is below that line, that means that more than 50% of visitors are not seeing that. Lucky Orange also offers tools like live chat, announcements, and surveys so that you can communicate with your website visitors in real time. So again, if you have not tried Lucky Orange or if you're not a user yet, head over to luckyorange.com, check it out, 7-day free trial with no credit card required. If you're a Shopify store owner, head over to the Shopify App Store to download the Lucky Orange app to your store today, as well as BigCommerce, HubSpot, Square, and many more. Check us out, and happy optimizing.